off with my dude, let me kick off with my case study.
Okay, I'm excited to
Uh
hear this.
so case study of ways to make money. Bro, this is every 15-year-old boy's dream.
Okay.
So, dude, you can make between $1,000 to $3,000 a month being a sperm donor. Like
What?
legit, you can make some fat cash doing it. You can make up to 20, 30 grand a year. So here's
Wow.
what you got to do. Let me tell you about what it looks like from the guy's perspective and then the female's perspective, because that's even crazier. You go in, you meet with a doctor, and they do a full physical checkup. They ask about as far back in your family lineage as they can. They measure how tall they are. They take photos of every part of your body. Every part, bro. The whole thing. And then you go through like this whole exam. You give them a sample, and they determine if you are worthy enough of procreating, of like, because the whole thing is they are selling your sperm to females. Like, dude,
Hmm.
you're a gallon of milk at Whole Foods, and the women come in and it's like they need to buy it. And so they're looking for like the best of the best, like intelligence, looks, height, like fitness, the whole thing, health. And if you get chosen, in less than 5% of men, so like 1 out of 20 will actually make the cut. Most people, they don't even want their sperm, like not at all. And so that's why they can pay so much for this, because it's like you're going after like the Tom Cruises or the Tom Brady's of the world, of the sperm. And then if you're accepted, then you're basically put in a catalog, like a Macy's magazine. And women come in who are looking for like artificial insemination, or they're looking to basically buy your sperm. They're given a booklet. And it's like, dude, it's like Tinder, but like more detailed. Like, imagine you're choosing a character and you can like swipe through it and you can be like, okay, this guy, here's all his photos, here's like his height, what he does, the whole thing. And they can just like go through this whole book of like 50 men, and they can be like, that's the one I want.
That's awesome.
Dude, you can make 3 grand a month, but here's so like they did add a catch. You are allowed to, there's a box you check where if you want, when the child turns 18, they're allowed to reach out to you. And so you can
Okay.
check off. And I think what they said was most places don't want you donating more than like a certain amount of times. Maybe it's like 50 times in the same area. And apparently they try and like spread your sperm out across the US versus, so
Hmm.
it's not like contained in this tiny little city like of Chicago or something.
Right.
Yeah. But more or less, you can make 30 grand a year just fapping in a cup.
So let me get this straight. If you have like the genetics of a Greek god, most likely,
Yes,
you're
exactly.
probably going to get selected more often than not.
Right.
You know? And so I wonder how many people you're up against. Like, can you see your competition? Like, what bank do I
Dude.
want to take my sperm to? Because, like, if I'm in like LA and I'm just some Midwestern kid, that's 5'9",
Mm-mm, no
pale
chance.
complexion, like, dude, you're gonna get snuffed out by someone who's like a solid like 6'3",
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
210,
Yeah.
good genetics.
Yeah.
So
Plays for the
okay,
Raiders, whole thing.
all of that. So how often can you like deposit like a sample? Is there like restrictions on that?
I like that you use the word deposit. I'm sure, I think it varies from facility to facility because it's not like government regulated. So
Sure.
hypothetically, you could go to 10 different sperm banks and
Okay.
just like if there's enough of them. But
Just
I didn't
go
get
drop a
that deep
load.
into looking into it. But yeah, basically.
Well, so okay, so you gave the Whole Foods reference, so you're basically depositing and dropping off some nut milk,
Yeah, yeah.
you know? Like, here you go.
Yeah. Here's
Come
my
and
nut
get
milk,
it.
dude.
Yeah, so okay, and then you can earn, a few G's a month if you're steady with it. That's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
It's
And
a nice, it's like a nice amount, right? It's like, okay, like that's some spending money.
yeah, bro, have you heard about that movie? It came out on Netflix. It's called Our Father.
No, no.
It's the craziest story ever, and it's right in line with sperm banks. So this doctor, essentially, he was in this small town, and you talked about they have to distribute your sample around the country so you don't oversaturate one population. Well, what this creep did is he would collect samples of sperm. Families would come in to be inseminated, and he would swap out a sample for his own. Dude,
Bro. Bro.
how crazy.
No.
There's a whole movie on this. And so I just pulled up the stats on it real quick so I don't mess this up, but he's responsible for 94 children in this small town.
Dude.
Little town too.
Bro, Genghis Khan, dude. Oh my God.
Yeah, bro.
94 kids.
And so what happened is like 23andMe came about, and people in this town were just like saying, okay, let me see what my lineage is and whatnot. And so whenever you register on that website, it just shows you like who your relatives are and cousins and whatnot. And so enough people did it, and they realized the hypersaturation of family members in this small town.
Yeah.
And so, bro, you're out there on Tinder matching with a chick. You don't realize that's your like sister.
That's your sister, dude. We have
How
the same
crazy. So that's interesting, and I figured that was a fun twist on that, because it just came out that that Netflix documentary came out in 2022.
Damn,
it's wild,
dude.
It's
those
wild.
poor women too. It's like
I know.
It's like, dude, you think you're getting like some 6'4" like football player, and it's like, nah, you get this crankety old doctor. It's like, damn it,
dude, you get a guy that looks like a mix between Colonel Sanders and Dr. Phil. That's who you
dude,
get.
That sucks.
Yeah,
I'd be so mad.
I mean, he's a hustler, and he's a little like evil villain vibes. Like, I don't know, maybe you pick up some good characteristics from that guy and use your powers for good instead of evil.
Hope so. we gotta hope so. I mean, what else are you gonna do, dude? You can't do anything at that point.
No, definitely not. Oh, that's wild. Okay,
check this out. I got a topic. It's kind of like in line with, so off of this topic, the venture capital world.
Okay.
And this whole concept of all these people will come in, they'll raise money for a business. They'll start something that's like this new tech company, WeWork, whatever, Snapchat, and they'll raise millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. They'll get these massive valuations, and they'll sell amount of their stock.
Yeah.
Dude, you know what's crazy? So I just experienced this firsthand with a company that I was working with, a vendor of ours. People will start these businesses, and I hear this phrase all the time that it usually takes 2 to 3 years for a business to make money.
Right.
Have you heard that before?
Yeah, I have. Like, a lot of people tell me that.
And dude, I 100% disagree, and I think that is like the worst way to run a business of all time. So check this out. There was a mailing, like a marketing mailing company that we use for our real estate brokerage, where they'll send out letters. The name of it was called Addressable. And we had signed up for a package about a year ago for them. We gave them $25,000. We purchased 20,000 mailers, and we had used about half of them. And I found out 3 months ago that company went under. So apparently they were running, they raised money. They had been running at a loss for the last 3 years. And then all of a sudden, like they couldn't do anything, so they couldn't fulfill any more orders. They ran out of cash, and then they shut down, and the whole thing went up, and now it's on like a bankruptcy type sale. But what was interesting was, because I have a similar competing company, I interviewed, or I got on the phone with a bunch of their staff to find out what was going on and learn more about it, and see if I could pick up some of their staff and bring them onto my team.
Yeah.
And I had found out like they had just hired 2 weeks before, like 2 more new employees. They hired a C-suite level person who is probably making $250,000 a year. They just gave somebody a massive raise like 3 months before. And when I learned about all this, dude, I was like, the fact that people like will bring in a CEO who has no ownership of this business, and like, dude, they don't give a shit on profitability for the most part.
Right.
And it's like this company was just burning millions of dollars every quarter, every year. And like, dude, if that was my company, I would not be like bringing on more employees. I wouldn't be doing raises. Like last I heard, this company had had grossed $12 million in 2013, and they had spent 15 million. And so I'm just like, dude, how the fuck are you gonna like spend 3 years growing this company and not once consider profitability of your business whatsoever?
Mm-hmm.
And dude, I think like just the startup world in general has this so backwards because they're not used to, but they see things like Facebook and Google who massively take off and they're just like, oh, in 2 or 3 years, we're going to be earning $100 million, so it won't even matter. But the fact is, most people don't get there anyway, so it does matter.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, I know I saw stats that 70 to 90% of all startups fail that use VC money.
Really? I
And I
believe
think
that.
it's just, dude, I think it's because they just have somebody else's cash that they can just throw
Yeah.
at a problem. And, there's like this duality of relationships between like the entrepreneur who just has cash and sees opportunity in a certain sector versus the actual practitioner that works in there day in and day out and is the subject matter expert. And they try to like blend those two together. And I
Hmm.
think that it's just sometimes a mismatch if one party isn't as committed as the other, right? Because these entrepreneurs that are starting up these ventures, how many other things are they involved in,
Yeah,
right?
probably a
And
lot.
so, it is interesting to think about that. And the fact that it's just so easy as a new startup to think like we could just throw cash at problems and hope they go away. And I
Yeah.
feel like they're just like so like stubborn towards like we need to develop more, we need to push out more, marketing more, all of these different things when they realize that they're at like a problem where they're not seeing any types of returns or any movement that's taking them closer to getting into profitability. That's dude, it's a risky biz to get into for sure.
Dude, and you brought up a good point too, which was I think about this a lot. You can do in your business, I mean, in the world, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. I think Tom Billio
Yeah.
said that. And
Yep.
it's like, okay, well, knowing that I have limited time in my business, what I say no to is probably more important than what I say yes to sometimes. Because if
Right.
I say yes to one or two things that are really effective, like in a
Hmm.
real estate brokerage, adding 100 agents, or in a rock climbing gym, adding 1,000 paying members, it's like those two things are going to drive so much more profit than like the itty bitty shit. It's like, oh, what color theme of desks, or like all these weird problems that come up that people spend way too much time on.
Well, they're not focused on the revenue generating activities. They're more focused on like culture and having fancy stuff. Like
Yeah.
for instance, the real estate office that I opened up is my second business. And my whole goal with the real estate company is get one office profitable at 20K a month,
Hmm.
right? And then open up a second one. And then how fast can you do that? If it takes me a year to get the first one to 20K, could I do the second one in 6 months, right? So that's kind of the game I play. Well, we found this sweet spot in downtown Kansas City that's like a very open concept, looks real modern. Well, we took over the lease for this property management company called Simplify. And dude, basically they just couldn't pay their bills. And like they had so many staff employees, they had a manager they were paying 120 grand a month. Where I asked her
Damn.
what she does, and she's like, well, we just kind of hang out all day and just, collaborate. And they had a nitro brew coffee station. They had all this fancy
Bro,
stuff. And
bro.
when we went in there, the owners were like, nope, we're dissolving the company. We're going bankrupt. Like, we're out of here. And
Hmm.
so we took it over and they left behind so much shit. They had these nice little like coffee mugs, the metal tin ones. They
Yeah.
had Simplify across them. They had these little swag boxes they give out to new property owners where they would, basically turn over a property and take it over.
Hmm.
And they would deliver those, but they had like fucking 200 of them. And you can
Yeah.
imagine the cost of each one of those. Like they're probably not cheap because they had expensive items in there.
Hmm.
They focus too much on that stuff, I feel like, and not on building the relationships and getting a solid like revenue basis per month. So they're just throwing money at problems, and so I can't tell you how many of those we have stuffed in closets or whatever. And it just I could just see clear as day that they just had a spending problem and they weren't focused on the right things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, dude, it's like that's such a great example. So Pineapple did 2 million gross revenue. High Climb did just shy of 4 million gross revenue. Obviously, that's not profits.
Right.
But like, bro, I'm sitting here drinking out of like this cardboard coffee cup. It's
Hmm.
like it's okay. Like it was in the cupboard. I wasn't gonna buy anything else. It was just here. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Focus on
Yeah.
the shit that makes money and everything. Like if your team, like, especially if you have freelancers like we do that work for each other, if they're making money, dude, they don't give a shit about any of the other stuff.
Yeah. No, they
Yeah.
don't. Everybody's a lot happier when the business is making money.
Yeah.
Because without that, then you're not going to have a business very soon. Right?
Dude.
It's so
Yeah.
important. Like the culture is important, right? It's important to make sure everybody feels like they're taken care of or whatever. But if it all boils down to like, are you able to actually like run a business where you can eventually pay your employees more than what they're worth so they stick around and you retain good people, and you have just a solid business all around?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, this
No,
this
that's
is actually a great segue to my next point, which is the idea, dude, I've been obsessed with this for the last 6 months, choosing the right boat. And there's a famous Warren Buffett quote which says, "It doesn't matter how hard you row, it matters what boat you're in."
ooh,
And I think about this a lot, dude. And it's like, let's say we go back to the days that we're slinging houses, selling real estate.
sure.
And it's like, dude, no matter what we do, i- in the best market in the world, we're never going to make more than probably, let's just say, $1 million doing that. Like, it's just,
Sure.
it's impossible. There's no leverage because we have to show every single house, meet every client. It's impossible.
Yeah.
And so, like, that was the boat we were in. And if we go, like, even simplify this down, let's say you're a taxi driver, an Uber driver. It doesn't matter. You could be the best in the world, like world class Uber driver. And I still don't see you making more than like 20, 30, maybe $40 an hour. And on average. And so it's like, if you choose an industry that caps out quickly, you're going to have a hard time growing no matter what. But if you choose an industry that has a strong tailwind behind it, meaning the industry itself is growing, like rock climbing is an extremely quick, it's like the whole industry is growing fast. Like new gyms are popping up every day. There's more climbers than there was yesterday every day. And so if you can join an industry where it's like it's growing quickly, there's an ability for you to, like, you're not capped out. Like these service industries, like if you run a like a trash pickup company, your one city is going to cap it, maybe let's just say a couple million a year at the most. And so now you have to choose: do you expand to other markets and cities, or do you go after something that has the ability to grow fast and requires less overhead? And the reason I started the software company in real estate sector is because I can take on 10,000 real estate like clients in a month or two, and like we're still good, and that's fine. But if I wanted to open up 10,000 rock climbing gyms or take on 10,000 clients, like, dude, the day I decide to start a second gym, it takes me 2 to 5 years to get that thing open. And it's like, holy shit, the amount of growth is so slow. And so choosing a boat, like, for example, software, or choosing a boat like purchasing apartment buildings, like a massive real estate complexes, you can just keep doing that and grow larger and larger. What do you think about that?
Scalability is super important in a business. And so it's like, I always had this thought when I was first getting started in real estate, because you mentioned it's like, it's a one for one activity. I have to be the one that goes out there, makes contact, writes contracts, and then follows it to closing. And you got to rinse and repeat. And so the scary thing about real estate is that I always repeat this message to my agents where it's like, you're going to lose your client no matter what.
Yeah.
It's whether you're going to get paid or not. And so
Damn.
think about it. Like if you're following up with them and you do a poor job at that, they may work with somebody else. So you lost your client, right? If you go out there, you list their property, it could fall out of contract and you lost your client, and or it closes finally, you get paid, but that person probably isn't doing anything for 3 to 5 more years.
Yeah.
So you lost your client again. So it's like, I like to think it's a high turnover. There's not like a lot of quick, fast repeat business. It's not a monthly thing, right?
Yeah.
So I really feel like it's important to understand like what avenue you're in. The good thing about real estate is that commission checks are a little bit larger than, like some of these other businesses we're talking about, like donating sperm, you might make a couple $100 each drop off. Whereas in real estate, you can make, $5,000-$10,000 pretty quickly. So you got to understand like what's the avenue you're operating in, and then what are you going to do with that cash when you get it? You know,
Yeah.
I having that strategy is important because if you get stuck in that cycle of that hamster wheel of just burn and turn, get a client, lose a client, get a client, close a client, you're just going to be in there forever. So having that strategy to get out of there is super important.
Bro. Yeah, we got stuck there for a long time, and
Yeah.
it's so easy to get into an industry and then just like tunnel vision, not think about anything else.
Yeah. So then when you're thinking about building an actual business that can pay you without you actually needing to be the work involved
Yeah.
with it. So then we're talking about how do you get into something that's more has like a hierarchy structure management where you can outsource a lot of the tasks to a lower wage employee that has a very quick learning curve. And so, like for instance, okay, I'm going to share this case study I got for you real quick.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I was diving into porter potties, dude. Have you thought about
Sick.
that,
No, but let's hear it. I love it.
bro? Bro, people are pooping and pissing every day,
You're not wrong. You're not wrong
especially on a job site. Like, think about those construction workers, dude. They're eating
Yeah.
Hardee's, they're
Yeah,
eating
yeah.
Taco Bell. Like, dude, every 3 hours they need to hit that John. And so
Yeah.
it's important to have that there. Your crews are going to be going to Quick Trip, gas stations, wherever, and they're just burning time. So, okay, think about this. Yeah. So you get some porter potties. Now, you could drop them off. Like, obviously, marketing is a big factor here. You got to get in front of people who need them so you can start your business, right? But
Yeah.
your average porter potty runs you at about $800. Okay.
Okay. That's purchase.
You need
To buy
purchase
one.
it.
Dude, that's
To buy
not that
one.
much.
You
That's
could
so
probably
cheap.
rent them. Let's just say if you
Yeah.
own it, right? And then clean out truck runs about $120,000.
Okay.
And it's just a big like oversized vacuum. And so you could hire anybody to open up a door, suck everything out, whatever, just turn over a porta potty pretty easily. So
Yeah.
think about it. They're like construction vending machines. It's like every month they're sitting
Yeah.
there, you're getting paid, and they're very low maintenance. So I always like to think about how could I make around 20 grand a month if I were to start into a business. And so obviously you got to take care of the financing. Are you going to get loans for these things? How are you going to staff it? And a lot of these things are probably going to be low wage, labor type employees. You could think about people who probably work for moving companies, or those kind of avenues, or waste management. I'm sure they'd be all over that stuff. And then, so how many of these do you need rented out to hit $250,000 a year? So your average rental per month is right around $150, right? That's not a whole lot. They're pretty cheap to drop off. So more or less $1,800 a year. But let's just assume you're renting it out 80% of the time. So that hits about $1,440 per year. Now, the cool thing about these porta potties is they run at about a 40% profit margin.
Damn.
Just because it's not a lot of upkeep.
I mean, yeah, and it's like if the shell is $800, it's like, damn.
So think about that. And so let's just assume, okay, if we got $1,440 a year on one porter john, you're making 40%. So that'll bring you at about $576 per year. Nothing super exciting per unit. And so right now I need 434 toilets to make $250K a year.
Yeah.
And so let your creativity take over and figure out how can I just like get a contract with, let's say, like a big concert event, or contact all the local builders and say, who's your supplier for these things? I love, whatever. Yeah. Marketing has to be a thing, building relationships. But if you just kind of stack it up and you're just consistent with it, like this could be a legitimate business. It's just pick up, drop off, and maintenance. That's it.
Yeah. It's so simple too. It's like you said, very little training curve to your staff.
Yeah.
Yeah. They show up with a pressure washer and they just probably spray the inside out. They don't even like wipe it down.
Exactly. So, let's say we're working real estate, selling houses, collecting some cash, storing it away in my savings account. And then I go get an SBA loan for $250,000.
Right.
Let's get it at a 10-year note. Maybe I'm spending about $3,500 a month on that. Okay, got a little bit of overhead, but then you just got to outpace that with your business plan, however you want to deploy that. But these I doubt the competition is super fierce if you're aggressive with building relationships.
No way. No way, because you hear of these kind of like shticky moving companies like Pinks, where they wear the bright pink shirts. Like you get these porta potties and you like you do the car wraps around them, or you do something that really makes them stand out. Like it's
Yeah.
like I could see that going really well.
Yeah, super interesting. So I
I,
don't
w-
know,
I
like these little
wonder,
funky, dirty businesses could definitely print off some clean cash.
dude, I wonder what you can do with porta potties to like give it that extra little like memorableness.
Get a
It's kind of
hand
like
pump
you,
bidet in there, you know?
exactly, just like something like that. It's like you know how Lyft had the mustache on the cars,
Yeah.
like that kind of thing. That's cool, and it's like I'm sure when they're most sites are renting these, it's not rented for like they're not just doing one; they get two, three, five at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, and you get like a major builder popping open a subdivision, you're going to need a porta potty probably at like in between every house, depending on how many crews you got out there and what you need.
Yeah,
Think
dude.
about like car meetups. Think about like food truck events. Like the
Yeah.
sky's the limit, you know, like even just renting them out for like high-end birthday parties or events, weddings. You reach out to local like big department stores like Costco, Sam's Club. Sometimes they have plumbing issues and they
Yeah.
need an external bathroom setup. Those kind of
Yeah.
things could actually be an avenue for you.
Yeah. And dude, I feel like you could build a whole sales team like out of virtual assistants for this. Just like texting and calling construction crews. Like that's it.
Yeah.
And I could see that just like easily popping off. Or you could even go the route of like subscription service, which it is subscription service, right? It's like
Right.
$150 a month, and there's like you got to come and refill soaps and shit.
Sure.
Huh.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about like those types of abilities to have like, you know, if I'm going to come and clean it out weekly, that could be a
Yeah.
service fee as well on top of that.
Yeah. And you
maybe
could
you're
even
looking at-
throw in like we'll upgrade your soaps and we'll give you the lotions and like the premium soap package.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Dude,
That's cool.
you could just get creative with it. But, you know, it's going to be about aggressively marketing it out. So I think coming up with a cool name, like you said, a lot of moving companies are great at this. You know, like the pink shirts they have, you know.
Yeah.
They usually try to break stereotypes. One of my buddies started a franchise called Skinny Wimp Moving
Yeah.
Company. You know,
That's
so it's
nice.
less
That's
intimidating.
nice.
You don't want like two
Yeah.
hunks in a truck and it's like I'm out of town and they're gonna go move my stuff, my wife home. I'm like, okay, I don't know if I want that. You know?
Yeah, that's all right. I'll move it myself, honey.
Exactly.
That's great. No, I
yeah.
can lift this refrigerator by myself.
Yeah, got this, and you're throwing your back out.
Yeah, right. Wait, dude,
no,
let's spend a second to brainstorm some names for like a porta potty rental because I feel like there's got to be so many good ones in there.
Yeah, what would be a good one? Okay, porta potty.
I like what you said, which is it's like Flower and Daisy porta potties.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's
you got to
like,
make it
what?
just seem something that just stands out that people are like, oh yeah, I love that. Yeah, what would be another good one? I don't know. I have to think about that.
Yeah.
Porta
Yeah.
potties.
Rose
It's-
petal porta potty because everybody thinks of them like smelling like shit. So I feel like really leaning into like, oh, ours smell nice. It's like we've got the nicest, cleanest. I could see that doing really well.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Everclean,
Ever clean.
Or-
Yeah, exactly.
Everfresh, or freshest porta potties.
Freshest, yeah, just simple, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. One of those little
Cool.
taglines.
Good topic. Good topic.
Love
dude.
that. Yeah. Good stuff. And so, you know, along the idea of just talking about money and whatnot, you know, why do you think most startup businesses fail? Like, because if we're looking at VC, 70 to 90% end up losing their ass and shutting down operations. So how do we at least brainstorm around like being successful at that? Do you have to go slower? Do you have to spend more time identifying your market? Or is it one of those things where like you just have to get burned? Like maintain good relationships with your VC guys and just say, look, we're taking a risk here and I'm going to try 3 different things. And so do you prep your VC guys so they don't like hate you and say like these might like 2 of them might fail, but one of them's going to pop?
Yeah.
Like how do you approach that thought process?
I have 2 thoughts on this. First one is I think you do have the personality types, the people out there, kind of like us, who no matter what, they're just going to make it fucking work. They're just like,
Yeah.
dude, I'll be awake 17 hours a day for the rest of my life. And when I first
Hmm.
got into real estate, I was ass, dude. For the first 5 years, I made no money. But I was just like, I just remember like we lived and breathed it. But we also
Hmm.
had the personality of every day I felt like I could be doing better. And so we
Yeah.
almost had that chip on our shoulder of like, oh, it's like if someone was to ask me if I was a hard worker, I'd be like, yeah, I think so, but I still have more.
Hmm.
And I think that's a big difference between the people who are like, oh, I'm working so hard, blah, blah, blah. Whereas you and I, not like that, dude. We're like, no, we can do more. And
Yeah.
so I think on one hand, the people that achieve success have the mindset to just say, like, I'm going to figure this out no matter what happens. And I'm not going to and I'm just laser focused. And
Yeah.
they'll find a degree of success somewhere. They'll build their own niche if they have to. Then I also think you have the people who like maybe they're not like that personality, but they're good. They're good at what they do, but they get into a position or a business that has just an amazing tailwind or immediately gains momentum. Like I think of High Climb, bro. As soon as we opened the doors, day one, we were profitable. And it's not because we were so great at driving this company. It's because there was a gap in the market. And then the company made so much money that I could hire A players to just do all the other shit that I didn't have time to do. And
Hmm.
so all I really had to do was put in about $500,000 myself, kick it off, and then find a good location, which really didn't take that much work. And then because of the tailwind, just like, dude, I just like there was this constant like we were just making so much money. It was hard to fuck up. And
Well,
so I think
yeah.
you have like those two things.
Right. Well, you did a lot of market research leading into this venture too. Like, bro, you didn't just be like, "Fuck it, I'm just throwing this out." Like, we're just going to build
This
a
is
rock
true.
climbing gym. So, what are some of the things you did? You went to some rock climbing conventions. You networked with other owners. You figured out who the best vendors were. You did some market research in your local area. Figured out how
Right.
saturated it is and what the upside potential is. All of those different things came into play.
It did. I mean, you're right. Like there was a lot of stuff that went into it, but like nowhere near as much as like the days where you and I were grinding and would wake up at 3 a.m. and just like hit the phones at like 6:30 a.m. Like
Yeah.
nowhere near as much work as that. And
Yeah.
so when I decided to do this, I that weekend, bro, it was like a Wednesday or a Thursday. And I was like, all right, I think I'm going to open this gym. If I'm going to do it, I just need to learn because I don't know anything about this industry.
Hmm.
And so I go to Google and I was like, I wonder if there's like an association because you know how there's like the association of realtors, association of gun owners, like there's association for fucking everything.
Yeah.
And so I just type in like gym owner climbing association and I find something called CWA Climbing Wall Association. And I was like, oh shit, here we go. And this was a Wednesday actually. And I found out that the next 2 days from now, on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there was a big expo in Colorado in 2 days. And I was like, well shit, if I'm seriously gonna do this, I need to go to this thing. And I look at tickets and they were like 2 grand because I'm in Hawaii and it's like the day before. I was like,
Yeah.
well, dude, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. And so I buy a ticket, I get on a plane, and I go to this conference. And dude, I meet like everybody I need to know. I meet like other gym owners. I meet people that build gyms. I meet climbing walls, hold owners, like the whole thing, like
Hmm.
inventory. I get everything I needed. And then by the time I got home, I was like, well, shit, I just need to find a location. And so I spent 6 months just like casually, dude. Like I set up an automated alert on LoopNet for commercial real estate, and just like every time something new would come up, it'd go to my email. And within 6 months, I found something awesome.
Hmm.
And I pulled the trigger. I wrote them a check for a security deposit with all of my money, 120 grand at the time. And then, bro, 8 days later, the entire state goes on lockdown. The bank pulls my loan because it's COVID. And then I'm on the hook for a $30,000 a month monthly payment, and I'm flat broke. Um, so there was some shit for sure.
Yeah. Well,
But
imagine if you had somebody else's money you were borrowing to do all that. and
Oh, I
that
wouldn't have
fucking
cared.
hit.
I would have cared, but like not as much as I probably did
You
now.
probably would have came up with some excuses. You probably would have said like, "Hey guys,
Oh,
the climate
COVID.
right now, COVID's happening. You understand what's going on. I'm gonna have to put this on pause for next year. I'm sorry. Can we just like pause my payments? Maybe I just make some interest only payments." Like, you'd be looking for ways out and excuses.
Probably.
But
Probably.
dude, you
Yeah.
boned up and you said, "I'm gonna put my own cash down, my own time in, and we're just gonna figure this damn thing out."
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, it
like
actually
that.
really sucked.
Well, 'cause I feel like a lot of people, you did a really good approach with this. You said, okay, I have a little bit of a hobby, something I find really interesting. And then you started to develop a passion for it in
Mhm.
rock climbing. And then you started to look at the economics of it to say, okay, this business makes sense. Pop open a shop, charge people monthly subscriptions. You got walk-ins, rentals. There's a lot of different, revenue drivers in this business,
There's a lot.
and there isn't a lot of competition. So you're putting it together, you're doing your research, and you build a business based off of that, like what's available in the market and what's the opportunity. Whereas, man, I find a lot of people, that like in my small town where I'm at, and like just other people who pop open businesses without a real strategy, they more or less base it off of like, well, I really like this smoothie, so I'm going to open a smoothie shop and
Dude.
make this smoothie.
Yeah.
And then now they're
Yeah.
tied down with a $1,200 month lease. They got inventory costs. They're paying for prints, graphic designers, all this stuff. They probably don't have a whole lot of cash. They're maybe working another job. And they realize, like, wow, I'm only making $4 per drink, and I've only sold 5 today, and I
Yeah.
have all this overhead.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the average entrepreneur. Whenever they try to jump into something, they just totally underestimate the amount of effort it's going to take to move units and volume to give you a profit. That's why you look at this porta potty business. If you just have 10 floating around, dude, you're only making $5,000 a year.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not going to pay the bills. And
Doesn't, not
so,
even close.
no, like you got to think scale. Like, how do I get to like your first metric? What was your first metric in the rock climbing gym? You had to get to how many subscribers?
Well, dude, the thing is, like, we pre-sold, bro. We ran out of money,
Mm-hmm.
like, because we couldn't get a loan, and so I was floating. I ended up like I was working my face off every day during real estate, and I would sell a commission check. I'd make 10, 20 grand, and I would just deposit it into the High Climb bank account. And
Yeah.
like, dude, that's all I would do. And that year I made more money than my entire life because I had no choice. Like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, I had no choice. And it sucked. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, like the first metric was just like feed the beast. Yeah, that's what it was.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just pump cash into it. You knew it would work out. It's just got to get
Yeah.
this dang thing open. I think you did an amazing job of pre-selling it. Like you started,
Yeah.
essentially your Instagram account, you brought in the community, you did some events, and then you created a buzz around it.
Yeah. Well, I I really don't think I did that. I think that there was a need for it and I just
Mhm.
filled the need. Like imagine like the way I think of it now is imagine you go to a little island somewhere with roads and street lights and there isn't a single car on island because nobody sells cars. And
Yeah.
you open the only car dealership. Like,
Mhm.
dude, by default, you just won. And so, what's cool about rock climbing gym industry versus real estate is it is hard to break into. I mean, you're looking at between $2 to $4 million startup cost, and which means you're going to need at least $1 million down because you're not going to be allowed to put everything on a loan. There's a lot of stuff you can't, like
Mhm.
just inventory and shoes can't be part of a loan sometimes, depending on what you're doing.
Right.
And so, because of that, most people don't have $2 for $1 million to just like potentially waste. And so if you go into a market and you have that kind of capital and there's a demand for it, like you can do really well.
Yeah. And so, just doing some like quick math, because if we're going to think about starting a rock climbing gym, let's say if I wanted to open up in Kansas City and I needed $500K to put down,
Yeah.
And so let's say my average commission check bring home after, I set some cyber taxes, I pay some broker fees, all that stuff.
Whole thing.
Let's say I'm earning $4,000
Mm-hmm.
per closing. I need to sell 125 houses.
Damn. That's tough.
I mean, but you break that down, dude, that's like 12 a month. That's not impossible. So then let's scale that back. What do I need in order to produce that? Like, maybe some other expenses. But if that's the path, if I could just do 125 houses and that will equal a rock climbing gym that'll be profitable day one,
Day one, dude. Yeah.
is that worth it? You know, do people
Right.
think that big, or are they just worried about like, how do I close 2 deals so I could buy this bag or afford this car?
Yeah.
Right? Like the sacrifice involved with it, with starting up your own company, like it's more important to associate the success with what you're trying to build than like what you can get right now.
Hell yeah, dude. I agree with that. That's
Yeah.
well said. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And so, like, you know, just do the math. Like, it's not impossible. I mean, whenever I was the busiest I was selling real estate before I had my brokerage, we were doing about 20 to 25 houses a month.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
And
That's insane.
and so if I was actually like headstrong with this strategy, if I wasn't just so narrow-minded and thinking I had to be just a better real estate agent,
Mm-hmm.
and I finally I earned all this income and I could buy a nice house.
Mm-hmm.
If I just thought, let me do this for like 5 months,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to pop this thing open. And then that's going to be my cash cow going forward
Yeah.
with the right strategy. That's all it
Yeah.
takes. Just that simple mind shift of, okay, I'm going to sacrifice now for 6 months and this can turn into something that's going to take care of me for forever. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, this business, you could have this thing going as long as you keep everybody there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
mean, it's fantastic. And like, we got lucky because there wasn't another gym in my market. Like you and I have talked about it. There is a competing gym in Kansas City. In fact, they own a couple locations. And so it's a little bit harder. Like people have seen it before there. So I don't think you're going to have the same amount of demand. But there are other markets, cities, and other industries that you could find this. You just have to be on the lookout for it.
Dude, that's important too. It's like not restricting your business to your physical location.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Like nobody thinks that far outside. So like you saying that, just it's okay. Let's do some market research in different areas and just see, okay, who's missing a rock climbing gym, and let's just throw one up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Essentially,
I've looked at it, dude. I've got a whole map. I've got like a whole PowerPoint thing about it.
of course you do.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. There's a couple cities where like I'm just like, oh shit, they need me.
Mhm. Yeah, bro. But I think that that's the trait of like a successful entrepreneur, is just realizing what's the purpose of each business,
Yeah.
and is it to spit off cash to fund this other one? You know, and then
Yeah.
once you build that, can I rinse and repeat? Could I do, you know, because I always compare my real estate franchises to ice cream shops. I try to get myself out of the perspective of I'm running a real estate office and I'm selling houses to how do I structure this to operate like an ice cream shop? How do I get somebody at the front desk that scoops ice cream and checks people out? How do I get somebody that's in the back running ads on the online and maybe managing the shop a little bit, right? How do we get somebody that's doing accounting and just making sure everything is in line, we're making money, we're ordering the right supplies, and the lights are on, okay? You get like those three pieces in place, and then now how fast can I get this to 20 grand a month?
Mhm.
And so now I got my three key players, I got a couple staff employees that swap in and out, and then which market could I drop this into to do it again? And I thought the same thing with my real estate operations. And my number
Yeah.
was, if I get to 25 agents that produce X, I can make this. And then
Yeah.
that's the metric. And then now let's just rinse and repeat. And, you know, being able to prove this out in a saturated business like real estate, dude, there's 800 brokerages in my MLS.
That's insane. That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm responsible for 4 of them. And, you know, there's 14,000 real estate agents. So then you know think about that, and then one company has 1,400 of them. They got 10%. So then where is my cap? Like, what is the expected results after, you know, 3 to 5 years? How many agents should I have? How many deals should be closing? And what should my income be? And if you break that down, I could come up with a realistic conservative number, and I could say it's not going to get any better than that.
Mhm.
So that's, I think, whenever you can identify that bottleneck of, okay, I'm gonna have to pivot to something else,
Yeah.
or just keep opening them up in different markets. You could totally do that, but what's the workload involved? I think I need a
Yeah.
lot of like skilled people in certain positions to keep this thing running. Like you need
Yeah.
a dialed in secretary, you need a dialed in manager, you need a broker that has a license, you need an accountant, all these different things. When I could just hustle my face off, open up these porta potties, and I could just have like 4 guys run around town and I'm paying them, you know, whatever minimum wage is, and they'd probably be just happy doing that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And dude, that's it, man. Like it's the boat. And I think real estate brokeraging, there isn't a tailwind. There's a headwind, dude. And it's like the industry is slowing down. There was a big lawsuit like recently that we've talked about before. And
Hmm.
it's like, don't get into an industry that's shrinking.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is, man. And so evaluating for what it is, then it's basically just a cash producing business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just take advantage of that opportunity and fund other businesses with it. That's
Yeah.
probably the right approach. And I think if you're just that entrepreneur that has a good idea and you want to borrow somebody else's money to get started, don't do that. Don't
Yeah.
do that. My advice is get really good at sales, get in a business where you can collect high dollar amount commission checks frequently, like
Mhm.
what we were doing in real estate, and then learn your lessons through that off your own
Yeah.
backs. Like, dude, in Arizona, I got so tired of cold calling. I said, I'm going to go face to face, and I door knocked 10,000 homes one summer.
That's awesome.
Like,
That's awesome. Yeah.
how
Yeah.
crazy is that? Like, that
Yeah.
was, where my brain went. This is the next logical step. I'm going to go physically door knock all these. And I broke it down. I could be out there for 2 hours, hit, close to 200 doors or 100 doors and talk to 20 people and maybe get one appointment out of that, one or two. And I just kept
Yeah.
doing the math and I said, okay, by the end of the summer, I should have X amount of deals closing. And that's about as far as I thought into it, to be honest with you.
Nice.
and,
Nice. Yeah.
and so, but you gotta like earn your stripes through that
Dude.
before you start trying to, like incur a bunch of expenses. Cause my monthly expenses was I worked out of my house and I had
Yeah.
my computer and I paid my dues for MLS. And then it was whatever else I wanted to add on.
Mm-hmm.
And so my overhead wasn't that much,
Yeah.
so I'm not drowning in expenses to where it's like overwhelming. And I think it's way too easy to do that right off the bat.
Well, we meet a lot of people who try and like get cute in the beginning, I call it, where they think they're going to like game the system and avoid that first like year of hard work. And it's like, dude, I'm sure there's a way. It doesn't mean the way we do it is right, but it certainly works.
Yeah.
And I've yet to meet somebody that's like figured out a better method, at least in our field, to do it. And it's just like when I meet this entrepreneurial mind and they're just like, yeah, I'm going to start this business and do this thing and blah, blah, blah. And they have so much certainty. I'm like, dude, you haven't done shit. How are you so certain about this? There's no way you could know any of this shit. Just like start from the beginning and put in the time. But
yeah.
it's whatever.
Well, dude, I don't know. I had the biggest problem wrapping my head around setting goals for myself early on in real estate. Because I didn't know what my fucking potential was. So how am I going to set a marker on it and try to hold myself accountable when I don't even know how I'm going to react when I'm in these situations? I don't know about the anxiety I'm going to feel when I'm on the phone with the seller, and I have no clue what to say to them. Like, my skills didn't match where I wanted to be, and I didn't understand how difficult of a process it is to get good at those little things and how freaking awkward and uncomfortable it is. And then you have avoidance to the activity. Like, nobody factors that in. It's like, how hard are you going to hustle whenever you're just like self-conscious the entire time? If you're even good enough to be there. So it's like, you gotta have some thick skin and just like know that that's what you're going to be up against.
Yeah. Well, it's like in our industry, you're working every day. It's like weekends were my most productive day because I know a lot of people took it off and we could be out there and everybody was available. And so if you're in sales, weekends should be your work day, like no matter what.
Well, you're looking for that like blue ocean strategy in a way. I think that's what you're kind of hinting at when you say you drop in a market where there's
about that. I don't know that too well, but
yeah, well, you're introducing something where there's no competition.
Right.
Like you said, I'm the only car dealership. People need cars. We have the roads. Like, come buy cars. Like that's amazing opportunity. So how do you find micro blue oceans inside of your week as a real estate agent? And for me, it's holiday seasons.
Yeah.
Dude, from Halloween to about halfway through January, real estate agents are just checked out mentally.
Yeah.
Dude, those were always my busiest months. Always, every time. December just freaking kicks ass every year for me. And it's because I'm putting in the work rolling into winter. So I find that opportunity. Working weekends. Agents, they're still in the mindset of 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And so they don't think about the opportunity of getting in contact with somebody on the weekends and evenings. So if you just pivot your strategy to, okay, I'm only going to focus on cold calls during the evenings. I'm only going to prospect on the weekends. If you just did that, like you would just make your life so much easier, at least like getting in front of people, talking to
Yeah.
new customers and growing your business.
Yeah. I mean, any sales, like any sales position at all, should be
Hmm.
working on the weekends if you want to grow. Because as a sales professional, really your number one goal should be to get out of sales so other people are working for you. Because right now
Hmm.
it's not a business. It's just you hustling, trading time for dollars. You need to have other people that do that for you.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Yeah.
literally do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, let me hit you with one more idea.
Okay.
So the real estate company I have, I own 100% of it, and in the beginning I did 100% of the work.
Okay.
The rock climbing gym, I own 70% of it, and I've probably did in the beginning, like I would probably realistically say I did 50% of the work.
Hmm.
Like securing a loan, finding the thing, contractors, find the location. My software company, I own 85% of it, and I probably do like 10% of the work. So what I've started doing now is I've started like giving out shares of my company, equity, and in exchange, the people that I give these shares to, they have to put in sweat equity. They have to do the work for me.
Yeah.
Because like in the software business, I knew I was going to be too busy to be out there hustling after everything every day. So I spent $50,000 to build the company. And then I found a guy who's awesome, Michael, and I said, Michael, I'll give you 15% of this company, ownership and equity. You don't have to spend a penny. So you don't have to put in 10, 20,000, but you got to put in the time. And so
Hmm.
he's leading this company. He knows everything about it. And I just kind of fill in some roles. And it made me think like, how far to the extreme, maybe on my next company, could I do that? Could I own 50% of the company and do 0% of the work? Meaning I either fund it and get half of the valuation or fund it, get half the equity, or I like start with a little idea and I find one or two people and then I just say go and I give them the
Hmm.
vision. And there's a quote from Richard Branson, which he says the reason he can own, I don't even know how many companies it is. Let's look it up real quick so I don't talk up my
It's a
ass.
lot.
How
It's a
many
lot.
companies does Richard Branson from Virgin own? Let's see. Take a guess. What do you think?
I'm going to say 22.
He owns 400 companies.
Oh my God.
Dude, what? So I was listening to
There's not
this
even
talk with
400
Dan.
days in the year. Like if you just spent one day on each company, like think about that.
Yeah, yeah. It's impossible. It's impossible. And so I was listening to talk with Dan Martell, who's like a kind of an Instagram business guy, and
Sure.
he's probably got 20 years on us. So he's pretty far ahead, and we'll probably be hopefully where he is within the next 10 years. And he asked Richard Branson because he went on a ski trip with him. He's like, dude, how do you like? You have so many companies. How are you not constantly just like in this role? And he was like, Dan, because he's British, right? And he's like, Dan, well, I I have a good vision, and I find the best people in the world, and I get the fuck out, and I get the f out of their way. I don't think he's probably said f. He's like, I get the hell out of their way.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, bro, if you find people that are better than you, my video's a little weird. You find people that are better than you, it's like, what do you have to contribute? It's like you just need to get out of the way, and that's
Hmm.
it.
Dude, that just reminds me like you are the bottleneck.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are the fucking bottleneck. Like, and that's what I'm realizing in some of my first businesses I started. It's like I'm the key to everything. At least that's what I feel like in my head. And like I have to know how everybody does everything. And it's
Hmm.
because I didn't put enough effort up front finding the best people for each position. Like the best, like
Yeah.
the ultimate best. And so, but that's I guess that's just how you learn those things. But but you have to be so certain in the vision you're trying to cast
Yeah.
that these people will give up their time to execute on your vision. And
Yeah.
so, like you talked about, how do you own 50% of a company and do almost virtually no work and just fund it? And it comes back to the saying that I always like to repeat. It's, if you could be the work or be the money, be the money.
Oh, Dude, that's fantastic.
Just
I've
be the money.
never heard that line, dude. That's a great line. I'm writing that down. If you could be
Yeah,
the work or be the money, be the money. Is that what you said?
be the money all day, all day. Because, dude, we have two currencies we're paying with. It's our time or it's our money.
Right.
And you have limited time, but there's unlimited money out there if you're creative enough and can go get it.
Yeah.
You could
dude,
borrow it if you got a good enough business plan. Like, craft up a good enough business plan and a good enough argument. You can convince somebody to give you cash if you really needed it.
Mm-hmm.
But then that comes in the line of like, how committed are you to seeing this being successful? So you go back to like these 90% of VC companies end up failing. And so, it's this little dance you could do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
It's true, dude. Well, we're coming up on an hour here. I've got one more thing to tell you about. If you're cool with that.
Let's go. Absolutely.
I suffered a major defeat 2 days ago. Major loss. Big L to my ego.
Okay.
So a goal I had this year was to get around more business owners, like as my friend circle. Most of my friends don't own businesses or really aren't. I'm the most well-off guy in my friend group. And I'm like, that's cool. Like they're all good dudes, but I also want people that are like above me and in different verticals. And so I found this like group. It's basically a networking group that you have to make a certain amount of money. You have to own a business. You have to meet these certain income requirements, and they only let you in if you meet their qualifications. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And you meet with them once a month. It's a whole thing. And there's a couple of these out there.
Yeah.
And so I interviewed with this lady. She's super cool. She's from South Africa. She's in Mexico. She had like a $400 microphone. I was like, oh, you're legit. Okay. And during the conversation, it's going really well. I already knew I qualified, so I wasn't like worried about that because they tell you what the qualifications are. And I threw out like a very subtle chess reference because I play a lot of chess, like the board game.
Yeah.
And she picked it up and hit me back with something else. And I was like, oh, Taryn, you play chess? And she's like, yeah. And it was kind of the end of the call. I was like, Taryn, all right, I'll make you a deal. She's like, what you got? And I was like, all right, let's do this. I challenge you to a chess game right now. We're going to play online. If I win, you're going to give me a discount. If you win, I'll sign up and pay today. Right now, she's in a sales role. She wants to make the sale. I get it.
Right.
And she's like, all right, challenge accepted. And so I play on a platform called Lichess, Lichess. It's the best one. But some people play on chess.com, which is like clunky and it's kind of like harder to use and you have to like double click shit. It's weird. But some people play it. And I had an account from like 2005 when I was like 7 and used to use that app. And she's like, oh, I don't have a Lichess. Let's play on chess.com. I was like, fine, whatever. Let me reset my password and figure this out. And so I log in, I start playing. I'm like kind of confused. And we played a 5-minute bullet game. And here's how you win in chess. You either checkmate the opponent. That's an automatic win. Or your opponent runs out of time. You win. Those are the two ways. And we start playing, and she's like being very aggressive. And then I just like, the whole game, dude, I am mopping the floor with her. I'm like doing forks with my knight. I'm winning pieces. I'm ahead like 10 points, the whole thing. I'm like, this is easy. But I noticed there was a point where I went to make a move, and for some reason, my computer like glitched or chess.com glitched out.
Oh,
and
no.
it took like a minute of my 5 minutes to make a move, and then it happened again. And so every move I took would take like 30 to 45 seconds. Maybe it's because I'm in Hawaii and it was my connection. And I didn't even realize it, dude. And so I'm like winning. Like I'm like, oh, I got this in the bag. This is easy. And I go to make a move and I realize my time runs out and she beats me. And dude, very happy for her, and I'm sure she was thrilled. But the last 3 days, man, I've been studying so hard at chess because of like my embarrassment.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. So,
Bro.
Okay, you paid right there. You followed through with your commitment.
Yeah. Well, she's like, you still have to like submit this application and then you pay. It's like, all right, well, send it to me. It's fine. So I'm waiting back on the application.
I
Yeah.
like how you blamed it on your internet connection.
I do. I know.
That's a good excuse. That's a good excuse.
Bro,
That's a good
I
excuse.
know. I even at the end of the call, I was like, man, it's so lame of me to like blame it on the internet connection.
Mm-hmm.
But I was
Should have
just
made your
like,
first
wow.
few moves faster, you know?
Bro, I know, dude. Yeah, it's like, and the sun was in my eyes.
Exactly,
And I
yeah,
had I had the pee.
Uh-huh. My fingers were sweaty. I couldn't click the
Yeah,
mouse.
dude. Yeah. Dude,
Yeah.
I sound like such a bitch. I know.
I don't know, Magnus Carlsen, bro. He walks up
Oh,
to it.
dude,
Have you seen him at
dude.
tournaments?
Bro, I know. Yeah,
He
of
shows
course.
up so late. Like literally, clock started. It's
Yeah.
a freaking game. He's at a tournament, and
Bro.
first thing he does, he sits down, takes a sip of his water
shakes
bottle,
the hand.
shakes the hand, and then he touches every single one of his pieces and gets them
Yeah.
exactly how he wants them. He spends another 30 seconds doing that. He looks at it, and then he goes, okay, and he just moves his pawn. You know?
Yeah,
That's
dude.
it.
Yeah, he's a legend, dude. He's a legend. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's built that.
Uh,
That's awesome though. Well, you took the
Yeah.
L. You were winning though, so at least you have that.
well, see,
Challenger back.
that made it worse, dude. That made it worse because I knew
Mhm.
I should have won and I didn't.
Yeah.
That's what made me mad. Yeah. If she had just like wiped the floor with me, but like, dude, you're so much better, it's fine. But I'm better and I lost. That's what drove me nuts.
Yeah. Hard to